It was a quiet morning when Emily, an adventurous young woman, decided to take a trip into the wilderness. The world around her seemed peaceful and calm as she cruised along the narrow, winding road leading deep into the forest. The air was fresh, and the sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky with soft shades of pink and orange. Emily loved moments like this, moments when the world felt still, and all that mattered was the journey ahead. She rolled down the window, letting the cool breeze sweep through her hair as the sounds of the forest filled the air. It was an ordinary start to what she hoped would be a refreshing escape into nature. But in an instant, everything would change. As Emily continued on the road, the forest around her grew denser, the path growing narrower as she ventured deeper into the heart of the woods. The serenity of the moment was almost tangible, the only sound being the hum of her car's engine and the rustle of the leaves in the trees. She was completely immersed in the beauty of her surroundings, unaware that danger was lurking just around the corner. The road curved sharply ahead, and as Emily turned, she felt the car lose control. The wheels skidded, the vehicle swerving violently as she struggled to regain control. In a split second, the car crashed violently into a massive tree, the impact knocking everything out of focus. The last thing she remembered was a jarring crash, her body thrown against the seat before everything went black. The peaceful morning was gone, replaced by a horrifying silence. The world around Emily seemed to crash down in an instant, the serenity of the forest utterly shattered by the deafening sound of her car slamming into the tree. Her body was thrown violently against the seatbelt, the impact forcing the air out of her lungs in a sharp, painful gasp. Her head spun and a dull, throbbing pain radiated through her skull. For a moment, everything was a blur. Her heart raced, and all she could hear was the pounding of her pulse in her ears. The forest, which had felt so peaceful just moments ago, now seemed hauntingly quiet, its vastness a reminder of just how alone she was. Emily's mind raced as the smoke from the car's wreckage began to fill the air. The once tranquil morning was now filled with the acrid scent of burning rubber and gasoline, and the faint crackling of the fire that had started beneath the hood added to the rising chaos. She could feel the heat radiating from the engine as she struggled to free herself. Her hands, slick with sweat and trembling from fear, fumbled as she desperately tried to undo the seatbelt. It was stuck, the pressure from the crash keeping it taut, and every attempt to unbuckle it felt like an eternity. The panic that began as a flutter in her chest now gripped her with full force. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. Her mind kept screaming at her to escape, but her body refused to cooperate. The car had come to a stop, but Emily wasn't sure if it was safe. The scent of gasoline was overpowering, and every creak and groan of the vehicle made her fear that another part might give way. She tried to reach for the door, but it wouldn't budge. Her heart sank. Her window was shattered, but there was nothing outside but a dense wall of trees. There was no sign of help, no sound of passing traffic, just the oppressive silence of the wilderness. Emily tried again, pushing against the door, kicking it with her feet, but the metal frame was bent in a way that prevented any escape. Her breaths came faster now. Her chest tightened with the panic that was beginning to take hold. She was trapped, alone, far from civilization, with no one around to hear her screams or even see the wreck. The realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She was entirely at the mercy of the wilderness, the very thing that had once drawn her and now feeling like an enemy. The isolation of the forest, which had seemed so beautiful and peaceful before, now seemed suffocating, as if the trees themselves were closing in around her. The fear continued to mount, and with each passing second, the weight of her situation became more unbearable. Every sound, every crack of a branch, sent her nerves spiraling. Was it an animal, a person, or was she truly alone? Her mind raced through every possibility, but none of it mattered. She was here, trapped, with no way out. The heavy silence of the forest pressed down on her, amplifying the terror coursing through her veins. She had no phone, no way to call for help. It was just her and the wilderness now. Desperation clawed at her throat as she fought against the seatbelt, pulling with every ounce of strength she had left. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't escape. She couldn't even hear the sound of another human being nearby, only the faint rustling of leaves in the breeze, and the sound of her own panicked breathing filled the space. The fear being stuck out here, of never being found, was the only thing that made sense in her mind now. The quiet, peaceful forest had become her greatest enemy. As Emily's panic continued to rise, her heart pounding in her chest, something shifted in the air. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. Through the broken window, she caught a glimpse of movement, quick, purposeful, and steady. At first, her mind couldn't comprehend what she was seeing. Her pulse raced as the figure stepped closer, its shape slowly becoming clearer through the haze of smoke and confusion. It was a baboon. For a moment, Emily thought she might be imagining things. Her mind was clouded with fear, the sound of her own panic breathing drowning out everything else. Could this be real? A wild animal, an apex creature in the forest, was walking toward her, its eyes fixed on her in a way that felt strangely calm, almost knowing. She instinctively pulled back, feeling a chill run through her body. The last thing she expected, and certainly the last thing she wanted, was to be faced with a wild animal when she was so vulnerable. But the baboon didn't seem threatening. Its movements were deliberate, controlled, and surprisingly gentle for such a powerful creature. The creature's eyes locked with hers, a deep, intelligent gaze that seemed to hold something beyond instinct, almost as though it understood her fear. Emily's body tensed, unsure what to expect. Was this animal going to attack her, or was it merely curious? But then, as if sensing her fear, the baboon stopped just a few feet from the wreckage, studying her quietly. Instead of showing any signs of aggression, the baboon did something that no one, especially Emily, could have anticipated. It reached out with one of its long, nimble arms and carefully, almost cautiously, gripped the door. Emily's breath hitched as she realized the creature wasn't there to harm her. It was there to help. The baboon tugged at the door, using its strength to pry it open. It was no easy task, but the baboon's persistence was unwavering. It didn't rush or panic. Its calmness was unsettling, almost surreal. Emily could hardly believe what was happening. Then, with one final push, the door opened slightly. The baboon immediately turned toward her, its eyes focused with an unsettling determination, as it was aware of the urgency of the situation. Emily, still in shock, watched as the baboon moved closer to her. The creature gently reached for her, its hand surprisingly tender, and in a moment that defied all expectations, the baboon began to pull her from the wreckage. Despite the obvious strength in its limbs, the baboon moved with a tenderness that made Emily pause. She felt no aggression, only an odd sense of being taken care of by this unlikely savior. Confused, overwhelmed, and too weak to fight her own fear, Emily allowed the baboon to guide her. Its actions were purposeful, each movement calculated as it carefully helped her out of the car. Emily's heart raced, not out of fear, but out of awe. She had never imagined such a thing. This wild animal, which many would consider dangerous, was now her protector. The danger that had once loomed so large had been replaced by this unlikely savior, whose calmness in the face of chaos brought with it an overwhelming sense of trust. The moment the baboon gripped her arm, Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her heart raced as it gently but firmly pulled her from the wreckage, guiding her out of the car with surprising care. Every movement was deliberate, each tug a reminder that her survival now rested in the hands of this unexpected hero. She was weak, her body still heavy from the shock of the crash, but the baboon's presence brought a strange sense of calm, a quiet assurance that she was no longer alone. Her mind struggled to process the reality of what was happening, but her body followed the baboon's lead, as though instinctively trusting this wild creature who was now her savior. As the baboon guided her away from the wreck, Emily's vision blurred, and for a moment, she thought she might collapse. But before she could falter, more baboons appeared from the surrounding trees, their eyes sharp and alert. They moved with purpose, surrounding her in a protective circle. One of them approached with an odd sense of urgency, gently pressing a bundle of leaves and herbs into her hands, offering her comfort as if it knew exactly what she needed. Another baboon came to her side, carefully examining her injuries, its eyes focused and steady. Emily could hardly believe what was unfolding around her. These wild creatures, often feared for their strength and aggression, were now tending to her with an unexpected tenderness. Each baboon seemed to know exactly what to do. One pressed cool leaves against her forehead, while another brought water to her parched lips. They worked in harmony, moving around her with precision and care, offering what little they could ease her pain. Their gentle presence, so unlike anything Emily had ever expected from animals of the wild, brought her a comfort she had not known she needed. For the first time since the crash, the tension in her chest began to ease, her panic subsiding in the face of their calm and focused care. As the baboons continued to tend to her, Emily's thoughts became clearer, her heart slowing from the frantic pace it had once held. She was alive, this was real, and she was alive. The wild, untamed creatures surrounding her weren't just rescuers, they were her lifeline, her unexpected saviors in a moment when all hope had seemed lost. The tension reached its peak as Emily realized that her very survival had hinged on these creatures' actions, on their kindness and their willingness to help a stranger. She marveled at how something so wild, so primal, could show such care, and a deep sense of gratitude washed over her. The baboons, as if satisfied with their work, began to step back, allowing Emily to regain her bearings. One of them stood up and looked toward the path ahead, its gaze fixed and determined, as though beckoning her to follow. The tension of the moment had passed, but the awe and gratitude Emily felt lingered in her heart. She was alive, not because of luck, but because of these animals' quiet heroism, and it was a debt she could never repay. As the rescue team arrived, the sound of human voices pierced through the thick silence of the forest. Their footsteps were hurried, their faces filled with concern as they assessed the scene. But for Emily, the arrival of the rescue team was a distant, almost secondary reality. She was still in a daze, her body aching, her mind processing the surreal turn of events. The baboons had done what no one else could have. They had saved her. As the rescue team quickly took over, offering her medical assistance and preparing her for transport, Emily's gaze remained fixed on the spot where the baboons had stood. Her chest tightened, and tears began to well up in her eyes. The shift from fear and confusion to a profound sense of awe and relief was overwhelming. The rescuer spoke to her, urging her to stay calm, but Emily could barely focus on their words. Her thoughts kept drifting back to the baboons, those wild, untamed creatures who had given her a second chance at life. She had been trapped, on the verge of losing everything. And yet, here she was, alive and breathing, all because of the unexpected help of these animals. Emily's heart swelled with gratitude as she silently whispered her thanks to baboons, who, by now, had vanished back into the forest. They hadn't asked for anything in return. They had simply acted without hesitation, without fear, and with an understanding that transcended human logic. The realization struck her hard. These creatures, who so many would fear or misunderstand, had shown her the kind of compassion and selflessness that humans often fail to demonstrate. As she was gently lifted into the rescue vehicle, Emily's eyes searched the trees one last time, as if hoping to catch a final glimpse of the baboons. But they were gone. The forest once again felt silent and vast. The tension of the moment had passed, replaced by a deep, unshakable gratitude. The fear and confusion that had consumed her only hours earlier were now replaced by a quiet peace, a knowing that she had witnessed something extraordinary. With a heavy heart, Emily whispered a final thank you, the words carried away by the wind as the rescue team drove her to safety. The baboons had not only saved her life, but they had changed her perspective forever. They had reminded her of the unexpected acts of kindness that can emerge from the most unlikely sources, and in that moment, she understood that sometimes heroes come from the places we least expect. At its core, the story is a reminder that compassion and heroism don't always come from the places we expect. Emily's life was saved not by a human rescuer, but by a wild animal, a baboon. This extraordinary act of kindness underscores profound truth. Nature, in all its raw and untamed beauty, has a capacity to surprise us with acts of selflessness. The baboons, creatures often feared or misunderstood, displayed a level of empathy that transcends our typical expectations. The story teaches us that we are all connected, humans, animals, and the environment. It calls us to recognize the kindness and compassion that may be hidden beneath the surface of what we perceive as wild or dangerous. It encourages us to be grateful for the unexpected moments of help that can come from the most unlikely sources. As Emily was taken away to safety, she looked back at the forest one final time, her heart still full of gratitude for the baboons who had saved her life. Their presence, once so intimidating and mysterious, now left her with a profound sense of awe and wonder. The contrast between her initial fear and the deep appreciation she felt in that moment was striking. The baboons had not only given her a second chance at life, they had reminded her of the power of kindness and how it can come from the most unexpected places. To the audience, this story serves as a powerful reminder that acts of kindness, no matter where they come from, have the power to change lives. The unexpected hero is out there, waiting to show us that compassion transcends all boundaries, even the ones between species. Like, subscribe, and share this incredible story of an unlikely hero. Let's spread kindness, no matter where it comes from. You never know when an act of compassion might change your life.